record to one of your files, but I'm not sure.
To files.
Right.
Oh. Do that.
Yeah.
Be on site.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. We are really excited that you're able to join us today. This is a webinar / meeting for you all who are July through June states, where your CSBG report period is July through June. We wanted to get together with you to talk about how reporting went for the first year, plans for second year. You are pioneers in that you're the first each time to start collecting the data, start reporting the data, and we want to make sure that we can, with year 2, go as smoothly as possible, especially based on learnings from year 1. And also just get some feedback from you all on how we can do that and what this looks like. So on the call right now, I'm to advance these slides. There it is. Okay. I was just wondering if you guys, if we can go around and introduce ourselves. I'm Katie Kajowski from NASCASP.
Muska from NASCASP.
Arizona.
Matt from Virginia.
Shields with Tennessee.
That is everybody today. Wonderful. As I mentioned, the goal of the meeting is to have a discussion about debriefing from the first complete year of data collection, because you all are actually already in year 2. Discuss any planning for collecting and reporting information for year 2. And then NAS is going to provide you with reporting updates. Some of you may or may not already be aware of, just that will help as you go through year 2. Reporting periods, there's 3 different reporting periods, as you all know, for the CSBG annual report: July through June states, October through September states, and then January through December states. So I know, Michelle, they're moving from July through June to October through September, correct? Correct. Okay. Is anyone else who's on the call, is anyone else considering making a switch in reporting periods?
I have not. We just leave it at that. I don't know. No, but I do have a reason. So.
Okay.
I didn't want to go too far without it.
Okay, understand. I get that. Sometimes these things can be pretty political, actually.
Well, it's to do with state funding. So we receive state funding that's on a fiscal year. Have to report on based on a state fiscal year. So to switch would mean we'd have to have 2 separate reporting periods. Completely.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty acceptable to have July through June reporting period, and I think that is why a lot of states set it up that way. That's a typical state fiscal year and state reporting period, so that does make sense. You can see October through September has the most states reporting, because then that aligns with CSBG contracting period. And we still have a number of states that are on the January through December calendar year period, regardless of when their state reporting period is or the federal fiscal year. And with the end of Module 1, really has been kind of this October through September push. So if any state is looking at making a change, it's relatively easy to do. We can assist with that. I know Michelle's actually going to submit a couple of different reports in 2019 to satisfy that changeover. But I'm sure, Michelle, you had a bunch of work at your level to get this done as well, in addition to, you know, the accounting for it that we do at the national level.
Money.
And yes, and I feel like did you have some revolt by your agencies in your state when you did this?
Because we told them OCS told us that we had to. So
Okay.
much to revolt about it, and it is what it is.
I got it. That is definitely one way to do it.
Do you know, Katie, do you know in any of those states that switched, do you know if they had state funds and whether the report, especially that Module 1, we had to include information on all funds, you know, and so I guess we could look at doing it, it seems difficult.
Well, it's something to think about. I mean, you are the hardest hit states when it comes to any of these reporting changes. You know, I know that you felt use of it last year when you implemented the new annual report in July of 2017, and we didn't have instruction manuals out until actually last year, the beginning of this year. You know, so there are ways that the July through June reporting period really impacts you because being the earliest.
Right.
Yeah. And then, for example, and talk about this later at this meeting, you've already ended year 1, year 2. Whenever your agencies are supposed to get their data to you, the state office, we may not have our forms ready or LDC may not be ready for reporting. So that's another impact to you. Now, moving forward, of course, we hope to, since we're building it this year, we hope that years 2 and 3 are a little bit different, but we will talk a little bit about that.
The thing that really kind of tripped it for us was that we have publics that sub all their money out and then on a July to June cycle. So, and those people are different every year. You know, in a report, they might have somebody that for 3 months of the year was different.
Right.
They had, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that I agree. That adds a layer of complication to things when you're talking about public caps and how they report and how they get the money and that whole process. But if a state is interested in changing that period, I mean, it is doable. Michelle, you have public caps in Tennessee, don't you?
Yeah, we have a combination of what are called HRAs, human resource agencies, and public caps that are supported by their local city, county governments.
Right. And how did it work for them? Were you on a fiscal year?
We were on a state fiscal year, but because OCS's findings, and it ends up that our administration as a state is moving towards a federal fiscal year. So it's not just CSBG, FNA, our finance and administration over the entire state is providing guidance for all of the programs to transition to a federal fiscal year. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. So there's a lot of agencies, you know, for our state with CSBG, because we had a little bit of lag time, I guess, in our funding that we were operating off of federal fiscal year 18 monies. It creates where we have a little bit of extra money this year, so they're getting a little bit of extra money in multiple programs.
And, you know, Matt, the other state who made this change recently was Colorado. And Colorado has mostly public caps. This is something that interests you. That might, they're another resource to reach out to ask about how they did it and what that process was like for them.
Okay, I'll reach out to them. I mean, I think it could be done. You could make them collect information from periods, but I don't know. Like, I think right off the top of my head, we have a grantee is Fairfax County, and a lot of money they put into it that's state or local, and the CSBG. So them to, and they have a grant period from July to June because of all the other fund sources. So I don't think they could change their grant period, you know. So I guess you could report numbers, and they would be from different agencies. You know, they collect 9 months from one agency, and from another, and they might be different outcomes, and they might be different everything. You know what I mean? It would give a skewed, weird view. I don't know if, like, say one of the agencies is doing employment, and then that gets the grant for 3 months in the next federal fiscal year part, does employment but does something else. So you'd have 3 months of an outcome from one and 9 months of an outcome from another.
They'll just launch it after the first year, I guess.
Would always, for them, the grantees always have a thing from July to June.
Okay.
You know, so they get new grant. Not every one of them is new every year, but they get some that go out and some that come in. So some would be consistent, but some would be, you know, that year you would be reporting on one for 9 months and a different one for 3. Basically.
Okay. Well, I think certainly at this point there's no mandate to make a change. There's definitely a push from OCS to on the federal fiscal year, and you know that's what we saw with Module 1, certainly. So something that interests any of you, just let us walk through what that means and how it would work. Of course, you know, the peers that are in the process, like Michelle is, or have just completed the process, like Colorado, are people to reach out to as well.
Do that.
Okay. More offline, Matt, about what that specifically means for some of your folks in Virginia.
Okay.
So of our July through June states, again, you all are the pioneers when it comes to collecting and reporting data. So we just wanted to check in and learn from you about what challenges you might have had, something positive about being a July through June state and being the first to collect and report data, and any innovations that may have come from this. The instruction manuals were certainly a challenge. Not have that type of policy and guidance when you're trying to build your systems. So, but you know, what else has happened in the last year that you are implementing the annual report?
I can say that it's been a challenge in having my agencies really didn't want to completely buy in, or I don't know if that's really the right term, but until they receive those instruction manuals and the guidance, they are kind of stuck on using the old MPIs. I've helped them use the crosswalk. I've walked them through the crosswalk, but even now I'm reviewing community action plans and the community action plans still are using the old MPIs versus the new MPIs. And I know that we're limited in our state on TTA, and I think that may have a bit of maybe a bit of it, but it's also the fact that, as you know, Katie, and working with you, we don't really have a system of being able to pull that data, so it does not force them to be able to really think about what each of the MPIs mean.
Yeah, I think that we've seen that throughout the country, even not in July through June states, and even January through or December states, where there's certainly some hesitancy about implementing without the instruction manual, and certainly, from developers who have contacted us who have said, what we're supposed to build, because there's not guidance on it. So that was definitely a stumble, I think, for us all. Yeah.
I can tell you that from the get-go with our community action plans that I work on last year prior to the beginning of the fiscal year, I asked them to correlate to the new MPIs. I asked them to include, I had a spreadsheet where we're supposed to do that. It was quite the challenge at that point, but I would have thought that they would be able to again do that for this round, and I'm already seeing, we've only had a few submissions, but I'm already like, they still don't get it,
Mm-hmm. What I need, I think training for this is a 2-3 year process, if not longer. Things. But, for the entire network to have a pretty good understanding of annual report, it's going to take a few years of training.
Yeah, I think my assumption to a certain degree, we had Jackie Orr come. That CAP came the year prior. So with the implementation, we had 2 years of somebody coming to the state to be able to talk about the transition. I provided them the crosswalks, but it still didn't. It was not necessarily enough.
Right. I agree, and I think the crosswalks are great. They're a great tool and resource, but unless there's some conversation behind that and some support around using the crosswalks, it's just a crosswalk, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't understand or have that baseline information for the new indicators, then it's not useful.
So,
well, I mean, mine is kind of encapsulated in the beginning thing that you said. Probably all the problems I had were related to the timing. Literally,
right.
Because we start doing our community action plan, like we changed the community action plan that year before we had all the information that we had to start publicizing in July of 16, so that people wouldn't be extremely freaked out and when they had to start in like January to work on it. So to add in that they were going to put in information related to the new reporting in that community action plan was not possible, to be honest. We had to go with here's the thing on what it's going to look like. You're going to report, and you're going to change some things related to demographics, after we get full information. And so otherwise it just made it tough. But I know you already know that, so that's why I wasn't. So.
Yeah, and know, and that's also one of the reasons that we're having this meeting with you all now is just make sure that through your states and your agencies are supported and have what they need. And we know that wasn't the case last year. And you're right, and it was timing. We knew the report was approved in January, and it was scramble to get Module 1 been live in OLDC and set to go by March, and start to get out there and train July. And just we needed a little bit more time.
Sorry, I'm joining late. Is there anything other than the instruction that was challenging that we can address for this upcoming year? And if we talk about any positives?
I could say that the positive is that if we ever had questions, Jackie, Katie have always been very responsive to my questions in trying to figure out a timeline, trying to figure out what the status of things were. I think my only concern is that sometimes our projections ended up being a little bit later than is expected, and then that created some delays. Sorry, I went negative. But honestly, I really appreciated the support that NASCAP provided through as best as they could, and based upon the knowledge that they knew at that time.
The resources we have now are great, and this year is going to be a lot easier. And a huge positive for us for the 18-19 year enabled us to change our community action plan, like to have one, because before it was like just a scattering of all kinds of Excel spreadsheets and all this, to create an actual community action plan that ties to outcomes on both family and community level and ties through to needs and strategic goals and all that stuff. So I'm super excited about 18-19. 17-18 was, it, I don't even like it was hard. It was just not able to be as tuned in time, not on y'all's part, just in general.
Well, I feel like we're not walking blindly anymore, right? You know, we've got the instruction manuals out there. We're actually in the process of making some updates. You know, you were part of that conversation a couple weeks ago with the Data Task Force. We have some great tools out there. We have some great tools coming out in the next few weeks. I think you guys have already started year 2, and the rest of the country will be starting year 2 in just a couple of months. We're really going into this next phase in a good position, I think. And I feel really good about it. I feel really good about all the trainings that we've done with the network and for the network. And just the level of understanding has just increased dramatically across the whole network because of a lot of this work.
Yep, I agree.
And of people like you that ask questions, and then it forces, you know, us at NASCASP and CAP and Barbara to sit and say, okay, well, what really does that mean? And let's get this out, and then let's have guidance for the network on what it is. And of course, putting all of that work through the Data Task Force. So there's been some really great things that have come out of this.
Arizona, is there anything you want to share with the group?
Well, so I actually came on board halfway through the year, so I didn't have the experience of the initial rollout. I started in this role in December 2017. Excuse me. All is that initially the CAP plans fiscal 2017 to 2018 had been made with the old ISNPIs, and so I had a process to get the network to map those with our assistance, map those to the annual report NPIs. We had the same and are having the same challenge that Shell mentioned, where some agencies are kind of still not quite realizing that the ES report is done with. But I think the progress is good and we're getting there.
That's actually a really good point, Edward, and we've heard that in other parts of the country as well. And one of the slides that we'll be presenting at both sessions we're doing at the CAP conference simply states that this report has been phased out. It is official. We're not using it anymore. I think that there has been some confusion in the network around that. Some of the things, we do have a lot of resources out there, and some of the things that will be coming out in the next few weeks that the Data Task Force worked on about 2 weeks ago, our in-person meeting, are things you see on the screen. A list of other indicators. So we heard from trainings and emails and feedback forms and a variety of different methods that there were things that the network was doing, outcomes that were being obtained that did fit in the indicators that we have listed in the NPIs. So we told them what's missing and received a bunch of feedback, and from that put together a list of these quote other indicators. Took that data task force who went through them and said, yes, these are good indicators to keep. So we're releasing that list after we clean it up shortly. We have a data dictionary coming out, which is a set of data standards geared towards the IT folks, either in your state office or vendors out there, so they know how to build certain fields of this report. There's a standardization across the network. We will have a series of FAQs being released very shortly, an analysis FAQ, and an FAQ on the report geared towards public CAPs. We've been getting a bunch of questions about what public CAPs should report and which pieces of the report they should report on. So I'll have additional FAQs coming out, some additional crosswalks, and an RFP template. So we know that there's local agencies, state associations, and state offices throughout the country who are procuring new data systems, whether it's just for one system or a statewide system. And this template will help walk the end user RFP process, things that might need to consider if they're developing an RFP and what might need to go in it, and what types of technical specifications they might need to know, and then also have like an example of an RFP they can use. That's the stuff that's coming on the next few weeks. From your experience with completing an entire full year of reporting, what else might you need from NASCASP?
Can I ask a question first? Okay, reading the FAQs on public CAPs, is there something specific that you're advising that maybe we should know? Some
of the questions that we've been getting are, like, for example, when I'm reading on partnerships in Module 2, if I public CAPs and they're just contracting out of their CSBG funds, how reporting that? Is it the partnerships of the subs at that point, I think, or is it the partnerships that the public CAP has, and what's being reported there?
Okay.
Answer would be the partnerships that CSBG is supporting, so the public CAPS grantees. We've had a series of questions like that and without some clarification. things that aren't on here, or maybe it's just one thing, is a lexicon that we're developing, which is synonyms of terms in the annual report. For example, we define basic needs and you know, living age, that there is no national definition, and a variety of other terms coming out also.
So working on the smart forms.
And the smart forms, yeah. We're going to talk about that in just a couple of minutes here.
Oh, okay.
Question about the data dictionary. Definitions become mandatory because one of the things we did in Arizona was we started actually developing our own dictionary, if you will, to come around an understanding of some of those terms like basic needs.
So, Corey, in this sense of, so the dictionary is geared towards IT folks. The lexicon is the data around terms used in the annual report. So is that what would be in the lexicon, which would be things like basic needs?
So
Okay.
for Arizona, we've created our own state definitions for things like basic needs in order for all agencies to be on the same page.
So states can always create definitions that take a deeper dive than anything that we've with, right? It's something very specific that you're drilling down to. So what I would say is wait till it's released and take a look at what you're working with in Arizona. And I think there's quite a bit of alignment. And mandatory in the sense that this is our common understanding across country. But if our definition of basic needs says shelter and clothing is the basic need, and it has added warmth or something, maybe that's appropriate. Janae, you might have more insight into how that operates between the state and national level.
She knows that for just a few minutes.
Oh, dang it.
Go ahead.
Saying that definition we've created just spans found in the data dictionary, that's fine. But if it's in conflict, we'll need to revise our definition.
Take a look at what the conflict is, and then I'd actually reach out to me first before you change anything. There's a change made in oversight.
Okay.
Anything else that you all can think of as needing from us as we move forward in year 2?
I think so related to report. Is that about like a report and being able to complete it?
Or if there's anything else. Go.
I think that I know that you and Katie, you and I have talked about in regards to the ability, performance management tool. I don't know, performance. Said that we might be able to upload like the smart forms to be able to look at. I'm brain dead now. To look at the data, from a data analysis perspective. It's not yet developed, but it's something that you hope to have developed maybe the coming year. I guess just having more information in regards to what you are, what that looks like, how we might be able to utilize that, access that from a technology perspective, from a application perspective, and all that we might be able to do with that, that'd be helpful. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I will actually, we can just move right along, and I'm going to go touch on those things next.
Okay.
So as we're going through these, if there is something else that you from NASCAS for this reporting year, I mean, just let us know, and we're happy to figure out how to make that happen. If a tool, if it's a resource. Really, I do want to touch on with you all the Module 3 pilot. Edward is actually a part of this. It's a meeting of state offices where we are exploring community level work in Module 3. We're actually working on a few different deliverables from that group right now, one of which is a review tool that the Data Task Force also took a look at a couple weeks ago that asks prompting questions for a state office to consider while reviewing submissions. Like, for example, does the initiative have a clearly stated community level need? Does the community level need match up with the expected outcome? And kind of helps figure out, does this community initiative that this agent submitted in Module 3, is it community level work? Okay, if it is community level work, are all the parts and pieces in here that are necessary to describe what it is? Do they have a data source? Do they have data that's guiding this within the needs assessment? So they're coming out, and from that, we're also developing a template to guide local agencies through completing the form for like some of the things I stated. You know, statement right here, put your needs statement in. Data, where'd you get the data? Tell us right here where you got the data. There will also be some recommendations from this pilot to the task force as well, in terms of some definitions in Module 3 and some other things for that group to consider. It's really exciting work. We'll also be having a session on it at our conference. Oh, hang on. So now moving forward with some reporting updates. Talking about smart forms. All states will have smart forms made available to them at no cost. That's the baseline reporting. Currently, smart forms are a paid-for service by states, but moving forward, they won't be. They'll be as accessible to states as the Excel spreadsheets on our website are. We'll also have states who have statewide databases that may complete a data transfer into OLDC instead of using the smart forms. The smart forms will be pre-populated with local agency names and some information. And then state offices, if they use the smart forms, will give their local agencies the smart forms, and then the agencies will come out, give them back to the state office. The state will upload them into OLDC. And again, if you all have a statewide database, you would do a transfer directly from your database to OLDC. With smart forms that have been developed, the task force is testing them. The planned release is December. Releases in December and not today or next month or whenever is because they have XML schema on the back side of them, the smart forms do, and they have to be tested against OLDC to make sure they work prior to us releasing them to the network. OLDC is in the process still of building out modules 2 and 4. And will simply be an attachment into OLDC as the smart form.
I make a point here, since Katie's not going to do it herself, to let you all know that we wanted to release these, and if it was just up to us, we would release these a lot earlier. But because we are building it through the federal system, that's why the delay is till December.
Those of us with statewide databases going to need to download our data in XML format and then upload it to OLDC that way, or does data transfer mean something else?
Nope, you are very correct.
Okay.
OLDC. And we provide you with format as well. And only true, though, for modules 2 and 4. Again, module 3 will simply that upload of the module 3 smart form.
Okay. Is there any way we can get a draft of what is proposed that agencies could fill out prior to? We already have agencies trying to fill out the data. And all I gave them was those Excel spreadsheets at this point.
It's perfectly fine.
Okay.
You can, if they complete those Excel spreadsheets, they could even cut and paste into the smart form, or whatever the process might be down the road.
Okay.
So
We have a December 30th due date.
Okay.
Apology for interrupting there. So module 3, we need to upload the smart forms into OLDC, you said?
Yes.
So
yeah.
collecting that information in our statewide database, we'll need to transfer it onto a smart form to upload it.
Let's do that.
We're actually looking into that. We know that we have multiple states who have built Module 3 into a system, and so we don't want you to have to read data entry. There should be a way that we can do an XML transfer that would populate the smart forms, just would populate a database. So look into that.
Yeah. Good question. Thanks, Edward. Okay. This is just a quick shot of the data dictionary that for states who either have systems or are in the process of preparing systems. Again, we will be releasing this very shortly in the next few weeks. By October is our plan. And this is just a screenshot of the lexicon, and this will also be released in October. As you can see, it just further expands on some common terms that are in the manual, internal report.
Can you go to the previous screen? Okay, so that's just an example of data dictionary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The con. And then I'm going to give you a sneak peek of the Module 3 form that we've been working on in just a second. Sorry. Okay. Jane?
Yes.
So designed the Module 3 smart form to have, some downs. Of the narratives, we actually pulled that out to the right-hand side of the screen so you can read what is on there. Sorry. Sounds for different years without the this popped on another screen. You have narrative pop up. So agencies can cut and paste information or type it into here. I will say if it's cut and paste, the text might get a little funky because sometimes characters don't transfer very well. But this is a 5,000 character limit. We've designed this for ease of use. We'll have that pop up, as you can see. Checkboxes. So check or uncheck certain things, the tabs at the bottom appear or disappear based on the domains that I'm checking. It's another way then that we're kind of aiding in the data entry, making it a little easier for folks based on the domains that you do or don't select. When you go down to select your ultimate expected outcome, you'll only see indicators for those specific domains, and of course other. The drop downs is currently a drop down for the of your choices you might have. Partner type is a drop down on partners, and then that pops up another. Strategies are very similar to the indicators, where you will only see domains that you selected in the domains in number 5, and then the strategies associated with those domains. Again, were appropriate in our narrative. Really quick, but any questions on this?
Cool, and makes me want to see that happen for SSMD, because with SSMD in Module 4, it becomes a catch-all, and I could see the same thing where you could do the education, employment, health, whatever type of outcomes related to that into the future.
I know that there's some states out there.
What is SSMD?
Serving multiple domains.
Oh.
Sorry.
I got you acronymed something before we acronymed it. I mean, we are really excited about this too, because we were able to work with somebody to make Excel almost like a database and make it easier and more intuitive. So we're glad to see it.
Yeah, and whenever you're able to click, you know, with more tabs or less tabs, and I'm like going, because right now SSMD is becoming a catch-all, and I'm like, but it really varies in what that looks like, and it would be nice to analyze that data to understand what domains really are going into that.
Yeah, like that. It's really intended to be a catch-all either.
I know it.
Questions on Module 3?
I guess the only one would be going back to Edward's point. When you said to smart forms, and then you were saying maybe check into it, would you be looking to let us our database upload with OLDC?
Yes.
Okay, and the other ones do, right?
2 and 4 will do,
Okay.
and there's Module 3 it's more complicated form, and
right.
there's some work that needs to be done to build it out in OLDC, and make that accessible for a transfer.
Okay. Yeah, for our system, we put in the exact form, but I do think, about we have the strategies only section, I don't know if that you had that in here, but that conversation of how you would separate out the total form versus strategies only.
Out the total form versus strategies only?
Yeah, we added a section on it. I'm not saying this correctly. We added a section so that out a community form, status initiative form, if they're going to say that they have one, and if they're going to say that they only have some strategies they're doing that don't completely make a full initiative, we have open for them to input just the strategies so that we just know like what they're doing and what would lead to an initiative.
So that's great information for you to have at the state office, I think, as you're working with your agencies to develop or help develop their Module 3. How you wouldn't, there isn't a mechanism to report that at the national level. So
we'd have to separate that, right? Yeah. So you wouldn't want.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Okay. But what we're saying is y'all are going to look at that, and maybe, would that be in instructions to the vendors?
They
would
submit.
Report. Yeah, like, cause I guess we're going to give them instructions on 2 through 4, or 2 and 4. And 3 was going to be able to be uploaded directly to OLBC. That would be included in it.
Yeah, we're working on all that information, about uploading all the background information. What we're really working on right now, Matt, is that we want to be able to also show across time, multiple years information. So as Katie says, this is already a pretty complex spreadsheet, and so we're still working through that. When you smart for the next year, how you do that cross-analysis. But I don't think we'll ever ask. I can guarantee we're never going to ask just for strategies that don't lead to any initiatives. That's definitely a state level process that states would look at. But at the national level, we wouldn't have that.
Right. Okay.
We're running short on time, so I'm going to go back to the other pieces of information that I want to share with you. See the Module 3 sneak peek slide on your screens?
Yeah.
Yep.
Just wanted to touch base on the performance management website. This is something that we are actively working on with OCS now. And this is a place where CSBG data will be highlighted, one for the general public, and also two, there'll be a data warehouse section that'll be locked down for state offices. So what you're looking now, though, is this public-facing website. We'll talk about what CSBG performance management is. We provide some dashboards to highlight our data. As you can see, this is actually a chart from our annual report and the report to Congress. Really making CSBG data available to the public and for people that want to know more information about us and the performance management framework that we have. Any questions about this or any other comments, Janae or Muska, about what it is?
I'm excited in years about this. I say that it's going to need to have a couple years of information to actually populate and be able to do the data dashboards. And my hope this is going to really lead to more of an analysis, so people don't, the little agencies don't just think this is a report to get funding, that they'll be able to, work with you all and have some better stories to tell. So it takes a couple years, unfortunately.
So for me to understand, as states look at it individually, and then that information will be combined at the national level of what the national picture looks like?
Yeah, Michelle, you would have a login and you would be able to see all the information that you submitted for Tennessee for your local agencies. You at state level would be able to do some trend analysis over time to see how things change for agencies, but that the local agency information would not be public as a public website. Only state level information, like our current reports are, would be there. And OCS, program specialists, would be able to do checks against different states so that they could check what's going on from Tennessee to Virginia, and, you know, the list is endless.
Will OCS be able to access the individual community action agency information?
Yes, because OCS fully has the authority to access it since the annual report's been cleared. But again, public, we wouldn't be releasing public local agency information. In a future time, we may look into having local agencies have a login, but that's probably literally 2020 discussion.
Okay. And then just really quickly, we have a new website. So a lot of the resources that we talked about today and the future ones will, of course, be located on our website. This is a new website. Under the CSBG tab, you can find a whole bunch of resources about the annual reports, the data task force, national report, state fact sheet. Highlight, because a lot of people aren't aware of this document. We built an examples document for Module 3 as examples of types of community level work and where you could get certain data for the community level work that you're doing. It's information, a pretty large document. It's found on the Module 3 page of our website. If you have any trouble finding it, just contact me and I'll point you right to it. Some really, really great examples, and it's been helpful to folks that have used it. The Data Task Force we met 2 weeks ago. Matt is one of the members of our Data Task Force, and we're really excited to have him on that group in person 2 weeks ago, and did a whole lot of work. And a lot of deliverables are coming out of that group. You could go about them on our website, and of course, if you have any questions at all, just reach out to me. These are the folks that represent the CG network on that data task force. We have state offices, state associations, local agencies, as you can see from across the country. Oh, and all of you are represented, at least somebody from your state, Arizona and Tennessee. I'm sorry I didn't notice that earlier. Questions, and of course, I hope you all are coming to our conference. So does anybody have any questions before we sign off? Sorry, I went through that really quickly.
I don't.
Well, we are here for you all. Feel free to reach out to myself, Muska, Janae, anytime for anything that you need, especially as it relates to this annual report, and you all push us into year 2. So
I have
feel free to reach out.
I have a question. Now that Jackie is no longer with NASCAP, is somebody that should be our go-to as far as questions that we may just have in general?
Yeah, just send them to myself and CC Katie. We have listed 2 positions which are closing in 2 days. So we'll be interviewing soon, so we hope to have some new people on board soon. But in the meantime, if they are general questions, send me CC Katie. If they're IA or report questions, send them to Katie.
All right, thanks.
Oh, have a great afternoon. We did record this.
Bye.
Thanks,
Okay.
everyone.
Bye-bye.